This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
Hey y'all, this is Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while loving a fake dating trope and sharing joy.
Stack our shelves with the clinches out. Shout it from the rooftop, can you hear the sound? Yeah. Live your best life, love it out loud. Love it out loud.
Welcome back for part 2, HBs. When we left off, Abby and Weston had just faked their relationship for his family, including a very inspired performance of all the sex noises to convince his brother that it's real. Let's just say they both got more than they bargained for when it comes to unfulfilled pants feelings. So, will this fake relationship turn real? Let's jump back in.
So
We zippies up. She's at work.
it's New Year's Eve. Apparently, there's a new bouncer that night, and the minute that was said, I was like, it's Price, and it was. And then he goes to find her. He's getting ribbed by all of his buddies, and they're like, "Man, you're gonna get us kicked out of here. We're gonna be stuck at the pizza joint." Like,
Yeah, when you break her heart, we can't come back here. And he
Mhm.
goes, well, I actually don't think that'll happen this time. And they're like, oh, it's over. Start gearing up for pizza, everybody.
Get ready for pizza. We're going to live on
God damn
pizza
it.
now. And he goes to find her right before midnight. And it is very clear. He's like, I'm breaking the rule a little bit, but like,
But we're friends.
yeah. And I'm going to go see, like, he doesn't say this explicitly, but he was going for a New Year's Eve kiss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he shows up and she is talking to Carly.
Very heatedly. He comes up and he's like, oh, hey, ladies, am I interrupting? And she turns to him and she goes, oh, do you need something, Weston? And then Carly looks between them and she goes, yeah, he does, and walks away.
Yep. That's a good friend.
It's the best.
And she asks him if he'll reprise his award-winning role as her boyfriend in order to walk her home that night so that Price doesn't.
She says he got a job as a bouncer here because we told them what a sweet gig the bouncer thing is at dinner at Thanksgiving. And like, I shouldn't have told him it was such an easy job. And I need your help. I'll get you more wings if you're here, if you're still here at the end of my shift. If you're not, that's okay too. But he told me that he's excited to walk me home.
Oh God, Price is disgusting.
The most ominous statement ever coming from Price.
And then we hear in the background, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as New Year's hits, she's like, I'm sorry, there's probably somewhere else you'd rather be right now. And in his head, he's like,
nope.
Not true.
Not even close. And he gives her like a nice hug, a comforting hug. And he says, hey, Happy New Year. Fuck that guy. And she says, yeah, fuck him sideways. And he loves it.
And he thinks it's so cute. And then on the way out, sexy beat 'em up Griggs comes out to play. And he looks Price dead in the face and says, my offer still stands. Bother her and you're signing yourself up for a dental bill much higher than whatever they're paying you to stand here and watch the door. It's your call. And then just saunters off with her.
And like he walks her all the way to the door, just like he always does. And he thinks to himself, like, and this is like the third time, right? Like he wanted to kiss her at Thanksgiving and then he had to drop her off at Christmas. And now he's walking her home at New Year's. And every time it's always a very, tense sort of awkward goodbye because they both obviously want to make out like bandits, but they can't.
It's never been a good time.
Yeah, he says you can't hit on a girl who only needs you there to protect you from another guy mauling her.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good look.
So then we get a montage of the next couple of weeks. He's spending a lot of time with the biscuit. He's walking her home every night. He says,
I'm just going to commit to the role. He's like, I'm man enough to admit I have it bad for Abby. And so anytime he can't walk her home, he gets his friends on the lady hockey team to walk her home.
And she's like, you really didn't have to send a friend to babysit me. I'm a big girl. I can look after myself. And he's like, I know that. But a good fake boyfriend looks after his fake girlfriend, even when he's busy making Yukon cry.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, that assist in the second schmurgle was really hot. It was really sexy. And he's like, thanks, baby. And then he thinks to himself, like, God damn it, if we could just have sex, all of my needs would be met.
Well,
we have awesome chemistry. We do texting all the time. I like hanging out with her.
He also hasn't gotten laid since before Thanksgiving. Important note.
He says, he says, I'm such a good actor that I have, I've convinced myself that we're sexual soulmates and you can't cheat on your sexual soulmate. Wow. So now we zippy zap to a few weeks later and it's the end of her shift. He's there like reading a paper for English that he needs for the next day. Cause he's like, this is like the library for me, but with beer. This is actually great on every level. But then she comes over without like her visor and apron on. And she goes, all right, are you ready to do the next step in this charade? Although, I'm pretty sure that he gets it by now. And then from behind her, they hear, what charade? And they're like, fuck, 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 fuck. And he's like, nobody was talking to you, asshole.
Now, the trouble with being a great actor is that sometimes you lose yourself in your work. That must
Wait, no, I'm sorry. No. Because as Price is doing this, he says, I wouldn't even want your sloppy seconds. She and her mom were just trailer trash before they met Dalton. And then he's like, let's take it outside right the fuck now.
Yes.
And she's like, no, he is not worth it. And he says to himself, like, I can hear my coach yelling at me for like being arrested for assault. But it's not even that stops me. It's just the look in Abby's eyes. And now read them that.
That must be why I lean forward and give Abby a very gentle kiss on the lips. It's a kiss that says, your big, strong boyfriend listens to you. At least it was supposed to say that. But the moment our lips touch, something snaps. I'm not the fake boyfriend anymore. I'm not even Mr. Smooth. I've gone past that and straight on to Mr. Sexy Beast. And Mr. Sexy Beast is famished. His kiss is firm and full of questions. Isn't this nice? Can I have a taste? Why haven't we done this before?
Yeah.
And then he walks her to her door.
And he's about to apologize. He's like, oh man, so back there. And she goes, was great. I'm just putting that out there. And he's like, oh, it's go time. And he says, I've never been a good actor. I'm only good when I'm really excited about the role. And she says, oh, really? And then he just kisses her face off. He says, come home with me. And she says, no. And in his inner monologue, it says, like, I almost die of disappointment. But then she says, my place is closer. And he's like, yes! And he picks up her bag and they go upstairs and holy fuck, it is on TM.
Yep, and the consent is beautiful. He's like, look, he's got her up against the door, and he's like, look, I've needed to kiss you for a long time, and I don't want to wait any longer. Is that okay with you? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, good. There's a few more things I need, if that's okay. And she's like, yeah? What? And he says, no more acting, honey. I'm handing over my Academy Award. This time, I want it to be real. I glance into the shadows of her little one-room apartment. Is that headboard sturdy? Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm going to need you to moan my name again, but this time, I want to be inside you when you do it!
Look, it's great. He goes down on her like a champion.
Boy, yep.
She has a tattoo of her dead dog on her thigh.
Wait, hang on. So he tells her he's over her, and she's in her underwear, and he's fully naked, and he rolls her over and is like towering over her in this bed, and he says, "Now this is where I wanted you on Christmas Eve, Abby, and on Thanksgiving, and New Year's, and every night in between." And then he says, "We are going to have all the sex."
Yes.
And then she admits to a little bit of performance anxiety, and he asks if they need to sing it out, and he starts like riffing her, and she's like, stop.
Yeah, you're so cute.
It's so
my God.
fun. And then he does disappear under the covers, and he says, "Who's a bad girl, Abby? Do you have a tattoo of a black lab on your thigh?" And she says, "That's friendly." And "Oh, I can be very friendly," he says with a grin. "But who's the dog?" And she's like, "No, the dog is friendly."
That's my dog.
And he's like, "Kidding, honey. I got it the first time." He presses a palm down over my tattoo. "Don't watch, doggo. I'm about to go down on your master."
Oh my God. Notably, he does not make her come. He gets her to the brink and then stops to put on a condom. And I was a little bit mad about it, but I will let it slide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they have great sex.
And it's like too intense. They're like staring into each other's eyes. And he says that like it gets so much that he doesn't know if he can like, keep himself in control. So he puts her on top, and then he like instructs her to grab the headboard, and she's like this, and he's like, yeah, just like that. And he says, "And now
Bowen.
Ride me." And then he gives her a little spank, and he's like, "Go." And she's like, "Okay." And Sarina
Bowen knows how to write a sex scene.
It's hot.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, "Happy Friday." Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
So after sex, they decide to be friends with Benny's until she graduates, because when she graduates, she's leaving.
Yeah.
She's going off to New York City, do her big finance marketing job stuff.
Whatevers. Yeah, and so before they have this whole conversation, he says like half of this sentence, and then in the middle he's like, "Oh shit, I started talking before I knew what I wanted to say." And the sentence ends up being, "So, do you think we're gonna do this again?" And she says, "That would be glorious, but I just assumed you didn't do repeats." And he's like, ouch. Like hearing my behavior said back to me in such a stark way is a little bit yuck. And she's like, I'm not saying it as a criticism at all. I knew
what I was getting
clarifying.
into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, but we're friends and we're adults and like we're going to be friends after, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "And we like our fun," because that becomes important. He starts off this whole thing by being like, "And we had fun together and we like our fun. So why don't we just keep the fun going?" Yeah. And she agrees to like friends with benefits. And then he heats up her apartment for her because it's been an icebox. And he figures out a way to jerry-rig
I've
the
never
heater.
lived someplace where I don't have control over my own thermostat, but this happened I just recently found this out that this is a thing. Oh, it was Emily during a watch party. I don't know remember if you've already gone to bed or not, but well, I'm not gonna blast where she lives, but
no,
it was
in a cold region.
The laundry lord, the landlord is in control of the thermostat. And so the apartments are so hot that you have to open the windows in the dead of winter in these freezing places. And I was like, what? And Melody, when I tell you, I went down to the rabbit that night. I went to bed at like 4 a.m. because I was just reading threads. I did a Google and it's a thing.
Yes.
You're not in charge of your own thermostat.
Not at all.
What? As somebody who has always lived hot places, Southern California, Southern Louisiana, Southern Arkansas, like hot places where it gets cold, global warming. But I've just never not been in charge of my own temperature.
Yeah, it's absolutely
even in my dorm room, I had control over my own temperature.
Right. And so her landlady is this octogenarian who's really cheap. And so she has it set to like 50 or something. Yeah. So anyway, he figures out how to warm her up, and then do they decide when they're going to see each other again at that point?
Yeah, so we end up having like a montage of scenes, right, over the next couple of months where they are texting and they start seeing each other semi-regularly, and he'll be like, hey, are you free Sunday? And like, are you free Wednesday?
All these things. I have to write a paper before I go out of town, so I can't see you then, but like come over on this day.
Note, he's also still walking her home, but now sexy times are involved. It's delighted.
And then she takes a trip to New York City for some interviews. Mm-hmm. She ends up it's just like a shitty day, you know.
This scene had me melting dead.
Oh yeah. So, okay, just pro tip though, there is no cab fare worth you walking 40 blocks in borrowed heels while dragging a suitcase. Like, just take the fucking cab. It's gonna be around $9. Good God. Like, okay. I mean, depending, right?
Yeah,
like,
continue.
It depends on whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, there's literally
Melody is so done with my nitpicky shit, listener.
I mean, would it be different if it was $25?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, no. I don't, no. Or
I'm at a point in my life where I'll pay a lot of money for convenience.
Yeah, or bring your fucking sneakers and don't do this to yourself. Figure it out. Figure out a better way. Anyway, so she has a really overwhelming and stressful and then terrible day, kinda. And she gets up to her hotel room and she finds out that all New York hotels are the size of postage stamps unless you're a billionaire. And she's like, this is really sad and my TV doesn't work. And oh God. And so she texts him to be like, have a great game out of town, beat Notre Dame or whatever. Because she's like, that's a thing that friends would say to friends. It's fine. It's totally fine.
She's feeling lonely.
Yeah. And Carly's working that day, so she can't even really call her. So they end up FaceTiming while he is in the bathtub. And he's like, oh my gosh, look at that. He finds out that one of the managers at the mortgage bank was looking down her shirt the whole time. And so he's like, ugh, that's disgusting. But also hey, girl. And so she unbuttons one button and she's like, there, now you have the same view as he did. Mm-hmm. And she explains to him that she is a Melody and she does not feel comfortable flashing a tit over hotel Wi-Fi.
Wow, I am a Weston.
Well, and he is a Sabrina.
So she's teasing him at one point, and he's like, you're so mean. Maybe you should show me some more tit as punishment. 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct. And she says, you want penalty tits? And he's like, ooh, definitely. Yeah. And then she reaches up and re-buttons her pajamas. But then he's touching himself on camera in the bathtub.
And he makes sure to be like, hey, you're into this and this isn't creepy now, right?
Well, and she says, keep going if you want to. And he says, you want me to put on a show for you?
Oh, yeah. God.
Does that make me a hypocrite? No, I insist. We all have our comfort levels. Mine's just set on slutty. And I was like, Weston fucking Griggs.
Yes.
You and I are the same fucking
Weston
person.
For the win. So he jerks off for her, gives her a whole show. She is into it. And then when they are, oh my God, he says like, I miss you. As he's touching himself, he's like, oh God, I miss you.
And she says,
and she says,
you. Wish I could show you how much. And then he comes like a
and that's
train.
When he comes.
And then after they get off the call, he thinks to himself, I feel strangely wrecked. Now I'm just a messy guy cooling in a cooling tub who wishes he could curl up in a bed with the bright-eyed sweetheart on the screen. Weston!
And he also asked her to come over on Sunday. And she's like, I might bake a cake in that kitchen you described to me. And he's like, okay, great. Like, cake or not, come over. I just want to see you. And it is the best. She goes over on Sunday night. She ends up baking with him. All the boys are like a little weird with her because they've heard her name more than once. And that is not normal for Weston.
Also, she's in their house baking a cake right now.
Yeah. And he is like, Mr. Let me come up behind you and kiss your neck and all this stuff. And she's like, okay, I love this, but like, you're being so distracting. And he's like, yeah, put me to work. Otherwise I can't be responsible for what my hands do.
One of his old hookups, Kara, shows up and she overhears the whole thing because Kara basically shows up and is like, hey, I was thinking that we might like rekindle our one-time thing, and he feels real awkward.
And he calls her Carrie accidentally. It's horrible.
She hears the whole thing, and she's suddenly kind of having this realization of like, oh, I need to live in the moment until graduation because he's not a commitment guy, and he's not a long-distance guy, and I need to remember that.
But also, she's like, I did also feel like the need to stake a claim. So she goes out there and she's like, the cake's almost ready. I need like a big platter. And as soon as she gets there, he like puts an arm around her shoulder. And they're like very coupley interacting. And she's playing it super cool and like looking at him like he's a weirdo because he's stuttering and stuff. He's so nervous. And she kisses him on the jaw. And then they end up going back in. And so she's like, I'm kind of an asshole, because I did want to like stake the claim. But she says that when he automatically put his arm around her, she felt like a queen. She felt like his queen. Yeah. And she wants to like live in this moment of feeling wonderful, being his woman of the hour.
Yeah.
But she has to remember that it is just the woman of the hour. Yeah. So they go up and they have awesome sex.
And then the next morning they wake up and he notices she's kind of in a weird mood in the kitchen. And we find out that it's the 3-year anniversary of her mother's death. She makes plans with Dalton to go to the cemetery and get lunch. And he's like, do you want me to go along with you? Because it was very clear that Dalton on the phone was like, is Weston coming? And she says, no, you don't have to be a fake boyfriend today.
And it hits him right in the chest.
And then
But he doesn't know why, everybody.
Because he's a nitwit!
I love it.
So she leaves.
And it's like a weird leaving, you know? Like she sort of kisses him on the cheek. She doesn't eat the cake that's on the table, you know? Like it's weird. Everything feels weird.
And he is talking to Tate about his situationship, essentially, with Abby. And they're talking about how he's a commitment phobe and how, like, I feel weird because I don't really know what to do in this situation. And
Tate says she's not a starter girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
She needs a pro.
She deserves a real partner and all sorts of stuff. And Weston's like, oh my God, he's right. And then they start talking about the fact that he hasn't invited her to his sister's wedding, which is what really makes it clear that they're not a thing.
And it's on Memorial Day weekend, which is still in May. She might not be in town because she's moving.
Very end of May. Like,
I know. I do too. But I also understand why it's like the cusp. You know what I mean?
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and T-shirts that give back. One purchased equals one donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Oh my God. And then, so we end up seeing her at the cemetery, and she says something that just hits so hard. Because she says, these past 3 years, I've learned that grief is like a chronic disease. Some days are good days and you barely think about it at all. But then there are the flare-ups when you feel terrible and can't imagine ever feeling happy again. If I cry right now, I might never stop. It's excruciating, and yet I still see the point of this exercise. We either come here to purge ourselves of a small amount of our pain, or else we'll drown it in it alone. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, I cried.
Yeah, I cried here. I cried when she got the satchel from his dad.
Yep.
And this is what tells me that, like, Dalton is a really good guy who genuinely cares about her outside of her mom. Because if he didn't, it would be so easy to just, like, pay the bills and never ask her to go to lunch. And, like, not do the cemetery thing with her, not stay connected to her. But after this, they go and they have a lunch together. He's asking her how the job hunt is going. And she's like, oh, do we have to make this bad too? Like, let's just not talk about it. He asks her why she isn't going to get a job at the Vermont flannel factory that she works for. And, you know, she's like, it's a family business and it just doesn't really seem possible. And I don't know. It was just, he tells her that and he says, if things go sideways and you either need me to shake some trees at the country club, he literally says, or there's always your old room. If it takes you a little bit longer, you always have a place in my house, you know? And she, like, is a little bit stunned that even crosses his mind.
Yeah. It's really sweet.
So now
she gets invited to Weston's game. His family's coming in for his game, first one of the season, and she's invited to dinner with him and his family before the game.
And it would be not only her family's first time at the game, it would be her first time at one of his games too. And he's like, and he's like very excited about her coming to watch him as well.
Yeah, and so she's late. He knows that she's going to be late, and she walks in like full business regalia. She looks very professional. And it turns out she had a interview at the flannel place. They're offering her a full-time position. They want to expand. And it's suddenly hitting him. She might stay in Vermont. She might stay in Burlington. Holy shit. And then Lauren brings up the wedding. And she's like, Weston, why is she not already on the guest list? And he has no answer. She actually saves him by being like, oh, we thought I would already be moved, you know, so. And then she
Couldn't
escapes to
do
the
it.
bathroom, and he goes after her, and they end up having a tiff, essentially. Like, she picks a fight a little bit, which I understand. Like, they're both running high on emotion right now.
They both pick a fight because his whole
Yeah.
thing is, why didn't you tell me about this Vermont factory interview? And she's like, well, first of all, it came up very suddenly because, you know, the daughter wanted to do this. And second of all, this isn't fun. None of my job search has been fun. You made it very clear that we're not part of each other's futures, and that's fine. But, like, we share fun together, and this doesn't fit the bill.
And then
And he's
she
like,
says to
that's
him,
unfair.
Then she
But
says
it's
to him,
not.
why did you invite me tonight anyway if I'm past my expiration date? And he's like,
Ugh.
I just wanted to see you, but I didn't think it through. And she says, well, I did think it through.
I did.
And I'm tired of faking it with your family. It was funny until I got to know them a little, and it's not funny anymore.
And then she says, like, it's okay. Just tell Lauren we broke up. Like,
For the wedding.
everything is fine. We're still good. But also, listener, she's made about 3 or 4 comments already that, like, she's feeling exhausted and, like, it's getting hard to, like, keep her eyes open. And she thinks it's because of, like, the stress in the interview and whatever.
And we
Turns out, not so much.
Yeah, like it was there was a hint dropped earlier in the thing where they were like, oh yeah, the intern is sick with the flu or whatever. And so she's not feeling real great. She goes home to change before the game and isn't super.
But then ends up just, like, melting into her bed.
I just can't make myself get up and go to the game. Thinking about Weston makes my heart ache. He told me he's not a relationship guy. He's always been upfront about that. The problem is that I'm not capable of keeping up our fling without wishing for more. Does that make me a cliche?
Well, and I love this, though, because she's not only battling, like, am I a romantic cliche? But then she's like, I have this offer from the mortgage bank where they look down my tits in New York. I have this offer from Vermont Tartan. I could work here. And she thinks to herself, like, it would be such a better situation. It's like 80% of the New York pay, but the cost of living here is exponentially lower.
That's one of the reasons I love living in Arkansas is like, there's a lot of things I don't like about rural Arkansas, but my God, the dollar goes so far here.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And so she's like, but does that make me not ambitious? Like, am I being savvy to stay in Vermont, or does that mean I'm not ambitious? And so she's like, she's battling, you know, her identity on so many different levels and trying to figure out what's right for her.
And then she decides that she's going to text him and break up with him. And then she says to herself, no, a text is too impersonal. I'll leave him a voice message instead. 10 minutes before the game starts.
But he doesn't get it until after, and she knows he won't.
She says,
although that's very lucky.
Weston, I'm sorry to snap at you tonight, but I made a decision. We should just stop seeing each other now before it gets too strained. I've had more fun with you than I've had in years. No lie. But there are things I have to focus on now that aren't super fun, so I'm going to make the difficult choice to do that. There's no point to drawing out the inevitable. Be well and have a great time in the playoffs.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I feel like I understand.
That's cold.
Like, I understand why you did it this way. It reminds me of breaking up with my first quote-unquote boyfriend after avoiding him for 3 weeks.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. And I did send him a text, but I was also 16 years old, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, absolutely. But she doesn't realize what's actually happening is that she is succumbing to the worst flu of her life. And so I also understand, like, not having the energy to do anything else, but knowing you have to get the task done.
God, the flu sucks.
God, it sucks. So 2 days later, he goes into the Buffalo Basket restaurant, and they and Carly is like, hey, where is she? And he's like, what are you talking about? I was gonna ask you where she is. And she's like, she didn't come in for 2 days, and she didn't call in, and she's not answering my phone, and I don't understand what's going on. Meanwhile, he's a little pissed off because he's been texting and calling, like just to have, a nice conversation to end things, quote unquote. That's what he's thinking. And so when he realizes that something might be like capital W wrong, he's immediately up and putting his jacket on and he sprints over to her house.
As he's sprinting over to her, he's thinking to himself, I'd stuck it out with Abby until 2 nights ago and I'd been happy. Playing the part of Abby's boyfriend and then becoming Abby's boyfriend, it had suited me just fine. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. This isn't a cheap heat moment where the dingus doesn't realize they're in a relationship. This guy realizes that they have basically been boyfriend and girlfriend for a while now.
Yeah. So he gets the old lady landlord to break into her apartment.
Yeah.
And he's horrified.
It's an icebox in there because she hasn't had the energy to trick the heater. She's curled up in a ball on her bed and he goes over and she doesn't move. And like everything in him falls out of his butt.
I knew she wasn't dead, but I was like,
no, I know.
It also fell out of my butt, you know?
No, totally. Yes. Yes. And so, I mean, it's like the other day I heard like a bang bang on the walls in the middle of the night. And so I looked at the camera we have in my kids' room and I could see Ember, but I couldn't see Valor. And I knew like in every part of my being, she was just up against the wall. She kicked the wall and she's at an angle I can't see her. You know, I knew that. Still, I was up out of that bed and going to put my hands on her because I could not see her, and I will make sure she's still here. Oh.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
So we zippy zap, and she's like in and out of her flu, and she thinks to herself, when I'd said I never wanted Weston to leave me, it may have been a miscalculation because he's so bossy. Wake up, Abby. Drink this, Abby. Can a girl get the flu in peace? And this is one of those moments where I was like, I'm not an Abby. I'm not an Abby. I am a whiny baby. I'm sick.
You can tend me as much as humanly possible, frankly. And she realizes that he called Dalton because he's a doctor, and Dalton came and like checked on her and everything. And then she wakes up and there's like a floppy-haired blonde boy in her house.
Surfer boy in a cast.
The fuck? And she's like, wait a second, you're a hockey boy. You're a hockey. And he's like, yeah, but cast, couldn't go to practice. Weston's at practice, so I'm on shift.
And Weston, if he doesn't get a text message update every 30 minutes, starts blowing up Cooper's phone with phone calls. And like, oh my God, when Weston does finally show up, he literally walks in, doesn't look at Weston at all, sits on her bed and says, Cooper, you're dismissed.
But before that, she just got an email from her manager at the basket of Buffalo Bills, and he said that you're fired and you don't get your $1,500 bonus.
She's sick on her anniversary.
Because you didn't call in on your anniversary. And so when he walks in, she's like, oh, and his immediate thing is like, why is she moaning? Cooper, what did you do? And Cooper, everybody's like, nothing, God, nothing. And then he looks at her and he's like, I realized some things the past couple of days. Do you want to read it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, read it.
I realized something this week, Abby. What's that? I ask, trying not to fidget. I love you, he whispers. Wait, what? I love you, He repeats, and I'm sorry I had so much trouble admitting it. I tried really hard to keep things casual, but I failed. And when Carly told me you didn't show up for work, I finally understood how much I need you. Weston, I breathe. I'm sorry for the drama, but just because you got worried for a minute doesn't mean you love me. Oh, it does.
No, it does.
He says with a bashful smile. I'm the one who said we should just be friends who also have sex, but now I can't remember what that even means. When you're really close friends and you also have really hot sex, that only adds up to one thing. At least for me, anyway. It means you're my person, Abby, and I want to keep being friends and keep having gratuitous amounts of sex for years to come.
Oh my God. It's the best. So she tells him that she loves him too.
He tells her he didn't feel like he deserved her because he wasn't good enough. And he's like, you needed a pro-level boyfriend. And she says, but you are? And then he says, no, those don't exist. There's only flawed guys who try hard.
Yeah. It's true.
And then she says, just for the record, I don't find either one of your siblings the least bit attractive. And he's like, good to know.
Oh, that really takes a load off. And they're together forever now. Like, she gets a new place and she goes to one of his games.
He and his hockey boys manipulate Kippy into giving her job back with her bonus.
That's right.
Because
and then he doesn't even take credit for it.
But also for college kids, oh my God, they spend a lot of fucking money at a wings place.
I know.
Holy shit. $1,000 over the course of a few months?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's so cute. But, she tells him in text, I just have to read. I'm so sorry. This is just all quotes. Sarina Bowen, how dare you?
How dare you?
She texts him, in other news, I've decided to take the job at Vermont Tartan. Tell me how you really feel about staying in Burlington. Be honest. I feel great about it. Less phone sex, more real sex. I add a string of eggplant emojis because I'm classy like that. And then he's like, I like keeping you warm, but I agree about your pad. Tell that landlady you're outie. And I had a question for you, Melody.
How did I feel about that? I decided that I would begrudgingly forgive it because this was written several years ago, and he is a 22-year-old dumbass.
He's not a hundreds-year-old man in shit kickers. Okay. And she says, no more bad jobs or bad apartments. And he says, it's the end of an era and the start of another. Then I follow it with a bunch of heart emojis because I'm turning into a big sap. But I think I like it.
So she goes to one of his games, and then she's gonna have Dalton drop off a bunch of her books and stuff at her new apartment. And he says that it's no worries. His new assistant will bring all of them up. And she's like, okay. So she bars the door open, and then she hears the guy coming. She's like, oh, right here. Thank you. Come in. And then when the face comes over the books, her stomach drops because it's Price. And now she's alone in her apartment with Price. And he immediately goes into intimidation mode. He pushes her up against the wall. He's got his hand on her throat, not pressing down, but the threat is clearly there. And she tries to knee him in the balls, and they end up grappling a little bit. And then Dalton comes up with the next load of books, and he's like, what is going on? And once again, Price tries to be like, oh no, it's fine, we're just horsing around. But Abby is so shocked and scared and everything that she can't even make words. She just has her hand on her throat. And she ends up just sort of melting to the ground and sitting against the wall, hugging her knees. And so Dalton comes over and he's like, whoa, what is going on? What happened? Weston comes in and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Get out right now. And then he comes over to Abby and he's like, what did he do? And it's the first time she feels truly, truly, truly safe when he brings her into a hug. And then they finally tell Dalton the real score. And he feels awful. He didn't know he obviously had no idea what was actually going on. And he feels so bad. And he says, Abby, you should have. And then he stops and then he goes, I should have asked more questions. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to figure it out with Lila. So Price ends up finally getting some tough love. They like kick him out of the house and they have to go to marriage counseling over it because Lila needs to stop being the worst mother ever. And they're together forever now. They're going to live together.
Yep.
It's so like a whole thing.
This was just such a, even with all of the grief talk, even with all of the like little angsty bits, this was like such a warm hug.
This was scrum-diddly-umptious.
It was delightful.
Yeah.
And just wonderful.
Yeah. Have I listened to it 5 times? Maybe. The answer to that is maybe.
I love you, Melody.
No one can tell.
All right, Mel.
Yeah.
What's your lady love?
Whoa. You see how I let you get in there?
I did.
Oh, you're welcome.
As I was doing it, I was like, man, Melody, this year I'm thankful for Melody and I not fighting over who goes first for lady love. What's your lady love, Melody?
My lady love is getting inspiration from books for Thanksgiving desserts. Because I'm going to make that fucking chai pie. Ooh, everybody's going to be so excited.
I'm excited. Yeah. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. And Valor will want to help, so we can probably FaceTime,
Okay.
While we cook. She would love that.
I would also love that. My lady love is actually, I had other things I was going to lady love until Melody last night took over my life from afar by sending me...
It was a whoopsie.
Goliaths of Wrestling fan art. And when so specifically, my lady love is art by Femme Canary for Lily Main's Goliaths of Wrestling series. And then I did, in fact, go down the rabbit hole of art from both that artist. There was another one. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it was basically just a ton of monster romance art. And boy, I spent a long time doing that, and it was wonderful. Not a waste of time whatsoever.
The other one is Mar Espinoza 90 on X. Mm-hmm. They did this Seb and Larkin
art that I sent you
that killed me dead. Frankly,
yeah, all of it's beautiful. I ended up I don't even fucking use X. And I ended up following like 6 artists last night. I bet
they're also on Instagram. You can follow them there too.
I did.
Oh, okay, good.
I did. Don't worry. Yeah. Femme Canary at the very least. And boy, it was just a delightful little time. So that my lady love is Femme Canary art for the Goliaths of Wrestling series, and just in general, fan art for books that I love. I guess is kind of the thing. I did end up I've downloaded 4 books because of fan art and
nice
art that the authors commissioned for their books.
Yeah.
And now I have 4 new books on KU. So at some point, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
All right. Keep being a badass. And love yourself as much as you love somebody looking at you and asking, is that headboard sturdy?
Love yourself as much as you love meeting a special unicorn who is their own cousin.
Yes. Ooh-wee. Great stuff. All right. Love you.
Love you. Hope if you're in the U.S., hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, U.S. listeners, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. Bye. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening. We hope you have a wonderful week, whether or not you're celebrating Thanksgiving. Since I am, though, I'm going to go prep some pies. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by me, Melody Carlisle. Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by the ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. That one small action is a huge way to help the show. If you want to get in touch with us for advertising inquiries or anything else, you can email us at heavingbosomespodcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. See you next week.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, "Happy Friday!" Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.